Welcome to today in the news of Vanguard Live. I'm Precious Chukudi. We begin with the front pages of the paper, starting off with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with labor protests hardship as Tinubu wades in. Rider says the federal government moves to placate labor with wage award orders, promises to rejig steering committee to roll out CNG vehicles. While returning to negotiation with federal government, labor, that's what labor is saying, cuts down costs, use made in Nigeria vehicles. Labor tells National Assembly. Protesters pull down National Assembly gate. Senate begs Labour to suspend strike to look demands in 1 week. Blast the police for locking gates against Labour. Federal government files contempt proceedings against NLC TUC. And we can see a photo story showing Tinubu Labour leaders parley at Aso Rock. How infrastructure decay hampered judicial system. And on page 9, we have Guba Polls. We will win Kogi, Imo, Bayelsa, PDP boast. Page 13, APC crisis, anxiety over possible dissolution of NWC. Stories above. Economic hardship. Workers Workers withdraw 3 billion naira from pension savings. You can see that on page 19. Cool. Nigeria cuts power supply to Niger Republic. You can read more on page 30. UK's 38 million pounds aid making a difference in Northeast, and that's coming from a foreign secretary. Ministerial nominees, 5 ex-governors, 14 others make Tinubu's second list. Know your nominees. All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation is leading with Labour talks with Tinubu on cost of living fruitful. Rider says NLC president made pledges on refineries, wage awards, orders, business as usual in government, private offices, banks on protest day. Protesters break down National Assembly gates. Stories above. $150 million spent on fuel importation monthly, says the central bank. How government can win corruption cases by Fagbemi. ECOWAS gear up for military action in Niger. APC next to decide fate of NWC members today. And of course, we can see ministers Oyetola, Bagudu, Matawali, 16 others on supplementary list. And there's a list of the nominees showing. Well, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian is leading with cabinet size near 70 as Tinubu ignores calls for lean government. We can see a photo story showing the protest day. After Tinubu's parley, Labour federal government in fresh legal tangle over protests. Protests as faulty elevator kills doctor in Lagos hospital. Forensic experts lament rising digital fraud, seeks a federal government intervention. Stories above. Abubakar leads ECOWAS mission for negotiation with Niger junta. Buhari Osibajo absent as APC NEC classifies a Ganduje today. Military coup looking inward as democracy governance in Africa. Let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. The Punch is leading with hashtag subsidy protests, banks, offices shut amid rallies, Labour demands a 200,000 naira wage. The rider says NLC TUC leaders hold emergency neck today after special meeting with Tinubu National Assembly. Federal government sues the Labour leaders, says the protest will be suspended. How protesters broke National Assembly gate. Nigeria cuts power supply. ECOWAS vowed to confront junta. Federal government deletes 18 illegal loan apps. Ondo oil producing area indigene protests unpaid bursary. On page 8, PDP inaugurates a campaign council for Bayelsa Imo Kogi polls. Lagos probe doctors' death in hospital elevator. Colleagues shun work. You can see that on pages 4 and 5. Community protest demolition. Seeks Sanwo-Olu's intervention. Stories above. Oyetola, Lalong, Bagudu, 16 others make a second ministerial list. And that's all we can take on the front pages of the papers this morning. Join us after the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us today in the news on Vanguard Live, I am Precious Chukudi. Joining me to talk about some of the stories on the front pages of the papers this morning is Mr. Oludari Maiwa, publisher of Global Financial Digest. Good morning, sis. Good to have you joining me this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me today.
All right, let's delve in. And of course, yesterday was the protest that Labour has been calling for since last week. And of course, the president met with the leaders of the two labor centers, NLC and TUC, with a firm commitment to accede to some of their demands. But the question is, why exactly did Labour go on strike, and what makes the agreement from their meeting, yesterday, different from what the president has said?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, well, what the Labour had yesterday was not a strike; it was just a protest demonstration to actually show their grievances against the policy of the government. And I believe that just to call attention of government to what is happening around, what they are going through, what their members are going through. Probably that's why the president himself to call them to meeting, and outcome of the meeting would say, okay, they call out the protest. I think I'm not seeing anything wrong with what the neighbor has done. Don't forget that in the time past they have been meeting with the official of the government, the chief of staff, the senior advisor to government on, because they have not have a direct meeting with the president himself. And he's the only one who can determine, since there is no minister today. So for me, what the neighbor has done is just to send a signal to the government that they can bite. And if the government fails to respond positively to their demand, probably they go on the full scale strike. For me, I mean, they are still on course.
All right. Labour also mentioned that they received a court summon purporting the charges that that charged them with contempt of court. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the government would like to use everything to scare the labor or to mute them from actually expressing their grievances against the policy of government. So court is part of the response to actually to suppress the labor. But like Femi Falana said recently, that if the labor go to on strike today, they are not breaking any law. So the case of let's see where will the court actually file a contempt. I mean, will they file a contempt court against the labor leader? Let's see if that will lead to not lead to more to break down of law and order in the country. So for me, is that part of the gimmick of government to actually to frustrate the or the strike by the labor union? So there's no big deal to it to me, as I mean, from my own perspective, really.
Taking it back to when the president had his speech, when he spoke to Nigerians, some of the questions that people were actually talking about was that in terms of rolling out palliatives, the president was basically mentioning the things that he wants to do, but he didn't even mention repairing our modular refineries. What do you think about it?
Unfortunately, the president, like I said previously, the policy part were not well thought out, and because they are not well thought out, we have a knee-jerk approach to solving as the problem arises. Trying to solve the issue. I believe that the two policies, I agree with the two policies personally, but I equally disagree with the government on the mode of introducing the policy. There are processes that are required, for example, to reform your foreign exchange system. You cannot reform the system without a process. And for example, the removal of the fuel subsidy to require government to follow a due process, in the sense that Labour has been asking government to fix the refinery prior to removing subsidy. Everybody has agreed, as a consensus among the people, that the fuel subsidy is a scam used by elite to make the country. But the president should have looked back what will be the impact of this on the people and put in place the measure that will mitigate the impact on them, which the government has failed to do. So for me, the present broadcast was like a panic response to stop the protest or to re-pacify the people in not to go on strike. It has not really basic, because most of the things were long-term measure, which there's no structure to implement them today. So anybody that believes government is really serious, for me, is a sign of that this government, they are not really on top of their on the game. That's my own assessment from that broadcast. It's just bringing out things that will please the people, but what are the structure to implement those on these things, apart from some of them are long-term response to the crisis in the economy. What are the policy? What are the process? What are the implementing measure we are going to go ahead, you are expanding food production. How are you going to do it? How are you going to disburse the money? What channel are you going to use to do that? These are not spelled out by the government. So it's, to me, it's just that someone is just looking for a way around to pacify people without a concrete measure to solve the problem.
Hmm. All right. During its protest yesterday, organized labor, had told lawmakers to cut down on the cost of governance, and it seems to be that that's like the bone of contention to an extent, because we see that the president wants the citizens to sacrifice, but we're not seeing anything from the lawmakers. And yet again, also we see that the president is adding more names to the ministerial list. How do you respond?
Yeah, I actually did a report this morning that talk about the government expanding the ministerial nominee list. It does not speak to the mood of the nation. And the list so far submitted by President Tinubu in the National Assembly is the most expanded list of cabinet members by any government since 1999. We already have about 47 names, 28 first and 15 or 18 that follows. So for me, it doesn't speak to what the country is going through. We say a country is broke, we don't have money to run the government, we don't have money to support the welfare of the people, yet we are expanding the bureaucracy. Yes, we are expanding the political office holder. What are we telling the world? We are creating more challenge, we are taking more avenue to squander money without necessarily impacting the economy for good, without necessarily taking care of the welfare of the people. For me, it's a signal that this government, probably they are not on top of the game. Probably they don't even know what they ought to do to solve the problem, because you can't ask the people to tighten their belt when you are losing your own. And that was exactly what the picture government is paying to us, that you are paying to people to tighten their belt, to endure the pain of the restructuring. Yet at the government level, at the National Assembly, at the executive level, you are losing your bet. What does that say about the government? What does that say about their sincerity? It shows that this government does not really care.
Hmm. All right. What's your take on the ministerial screening? I mean, the other time it was that some of the nominees, were involved in age falsification, age forgery. What's your take?
For me, there's no screening. They are just do the circus shows in National Assembly. There are also screening. Screening means that you probe into the life of these people. There are questions you need to ask them about their family, about how many wives they have, how many children they have, their past relationship, there's any allegation against them. You have to bring it up to ensure that these people are fit and proper person suitable for those offices. Or are we asking them? We are not asking. We are just asking them trivial questions. We are not even probing. For example, there was a petition against former governor of Kaduna State, Erufai. The Senate president had to just wait that one off. There's no sign that the National Assembly are actually doing scrutiny, interview. Because what you are doing is that you are doing an interview to employ people to do the work of the government, and you are not probing them to their competence. Somebody say he has a 2 credit and went to university and say he was not having some certificate, and yet you are not stepping down to say, okay, hey, go and bring this certificate, go and bring the proof that you are competent to hold this office before we can actually pass you on. You say, okay, the man can bow and go, and we can. It's like a child play. The way I'm looking at it, we're not taking the issue of governance serious in this part of the world. When we see how it's done in other clime, we know that our senators are just playing game with us.
Hmm. All right, moving on. Let's talk about this now. There are indications that economic hardship, is forcing employees to eat deep into their pension savings held in a retirement savings account (RSA). How do you respond, especially looking at what we are currently facing right now as a country?
It's so unfortunate because the pensions fund was also very a cushion effect when people are retired, and a fallback position for them. But unfortunately, you can't be hungry today and receiving money for food tomorrow. So what people are doing is that they are taking care of today because you don't know where you will see tomorrow. So what's the point of keeping away money for tomorrow when are not sure of that tomorrow? And that is unfortunate for our country, because now the pension fund was also savings and which government can borrow to develop infrastructure, to expand the economy, and to promote economic prosperity for people, so that people can have something to look forward to in the future when they retire and fall back on. But what we are going through today shows that we have a government that does not care, that does not know what is supposed to do in government, and people are hungry. So why should we want to look forward to tomorrow? Tomorrow may never come. So it's better for you to take care of today and let tomorrow take care of itself. And that's what people are doing. They can't start today, and that money will be useless for the owner of the money. And that's the failure of government in the essence of it.
All right, so moving ahead, of course, Nigeria has disconnected the supply of electricity daily to Niger as a part of the efforts by ECOWAS to, restore democracy in that nation. Also, military chiefs from the ECOWAS regional bloc have said that a military intervention in Niger is the last resort. How do you respond to what's been going on in Niger and, basically everything there?
For me, the ECOWAS and the leaders of ECOWAS are not taking the right step. They take time to look at the constituency of this mayor. We have COUP in so many parts of the West African region, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Guinea, and now in Niger. Are we looking at what are the causes? But if people are going through challenges, like I wrote a report during the week that President Tinubu should not make returning to Egypt attractive, and people resort to the military regime is a return to Egypt, even though they know that military government has not brought any good to the continent, to the region. Yet, because of the failure of democracy, because of the failure of our leaders to live by the tenure of democracy, the government are living luxury, and people are asking people to tighten their belt. People will choose, will embrace any other option that's available, as long as it look there's a prospect in it that will resolve their problem. It does not matter whether it's a short-term effect or whatever. So what the ECOWAS is doing will not solve the problem. If they enter into the jail, they might be disgraced from that place. And because we are facing our own challenges in Nigeria today, because capacity we have during a common period in the Libya period is not the capacity we have today. The kind of financial backbone we have as a country is not what we have back then. If the ECOWAS had to use force to repair the junta in Niger, the burden will fall solely on Nigeria that faces economic challenge, that faces security challenge, internal security challenge. So how do we want to do that? How do we want to leave our own front challenge, to solve our own front challenge, and to go and face other people's challenge? I think it's a knock on our door. What I would advise the President Tinubu to do is that, in retrospect, to look inward. The coup in Niger is very close at home, and he decided to do the right, put the right in place, the right mayor to resolve Nigerian economic challenges. Otherwise, God forbid, we may have the similar thing in our country. Nobody pray for that, but government need to wake up and do the needful to prevent the occurrence of coup in our own nation, Nigeria, today. So it's not about putting force, forcing the people out of power. If I go into negotiation with them and to find the constitutive effect why they come to power and help them to resolve that issue. Otherwise, you can see that there was coup in Niger and there's no resistance, and the people are rejoicing, are going to the streets and destroying the properties and the goods of people because they regard as their oppressor or the politician. That gives you a clear picture that the coup was popular in that state, and you want to intervene. I think they are not doing the right thing, and I think they should rather back down and embrace negotiation, so that we can once and for all and encourage their sisters presidents across the region to embrace good governance. That's only attitude against coup in Africa. Good governance. Where there's no good governance, people will resort to whatever alternative is available to them. And that's what I see in Niger Republic.
All right, let's take a look at Mr. and Mrs. Mr. is speaking. It says, I said I'm sorry and that I'm ready to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. What's the problem again? And Mrs. reply says, I want that phrase changed. It should be give unto Susan what is Susan's.
Yeah, because if you guys get Caesar, you are just living utopia something. Caesar is not available. Susan is available. Why don't you give to Caesar? Caesar, not to Caesar. So I think it's a very good comic closure for the program today. Wonderful people. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ludari Mayowa, publisher of Global Financial Digest. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thanks for having me today. And have a lovely day.
Yeah. Also, remember that you can equally like, share, and subscribe on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. To find up-to-date stories, go to our website, www.vanguardindia.com, to find out more. I am Precious.